Hello, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well, and I am joined by a very special guest, someone who I've already had on the channel once before, to talk about two of my favorite shows that he's been involved in, Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beast, for which he was an executive producer, as well as Star Trek Strange New Worlds, for which he is a producer and also a writer on as well. That is Bill Wolkoff, and I am super excited to have him because we are not going to be talking about those shows, unfortunately, though I am very excited to see his work this season on Strange New Worlds, which is coming out. But we are here to talk about the WGA Writer Strike, which has been going on for about 2 months or so now, somewhere around that.
46 days.
40, see, he knows exactly the amount of days.
Not that I've been counting.
Yeah, not at all, not in the slightest. But yeah, I wanted to have Bill on because obviously the WGA strike is a very important issue, not only for artists and creative folks, but for people who are fighting against, systems that are not actually, that are trying to take advantage of the working class folks out there. And I wanted to sort of get him on here to talk about the conditions of the strike, what led to the strike, what the writers are asking for specifically, and also just sort of a larger conversation about all of that. And I also wanted to talk to him about his leadership role too, because he is a strike captain, and that is a pretty unique role in the in efforts like these. And so I wanted to sort of just get a little conversation going about what that's like and what that means for everyone, and also what this means for how we can all model helping the WGA writers while we're during all of this, but also going forward what this means for a lot of fights that are similar to this that have been going on around the past few years, and probably will sadly continue given the state that we're at in our capitalist dystopia. So Bill, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Jesse. Excited to be back.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, the first thing I wanted to start off with was just kind of like doing a kind of quick overview on the situation with the WGA, what led to the situation here, why you are on strike, and sort of what led to this. So yeah, I'll just toss it to you to sort of talk about it.
So every 3 years, the WGA, that's the Writers Guild of America, the union for all writers in television and movies, renegotiates their contract and renegotiate with an entity called the AMPTP, and that's the trade union that all of the studios and companies collectively bargain with us through. And our contract expired on May 1st of 2023, and leading up to that, the WGA leadership had done what they always do, which is through a system of captains and also a system of surveys and member meetings, had read the temperature of the membership to see what the state of the membership was. And what they found was that writers are hurting right now. It is in the last since our last negotiation, and even leading up to our last negotiation was during COVID, so we did not really so a lot of these issues that we're fighting for now, we would have been fighting for in 2020, and they've become even more entrenched in the 3 years since 2020. The short of it is that the profession of writer is in danger in both movies and in TV. It's becoming harder and harder to have a career as a TV writer. And writers in TV, I'm a television writer, and writers in TV are finding it increasingly hard to make their years. They're working 10 to 20 weeks a year, if that, and they're working under conditions through loopholes that the studios and companies have found since most of their content is now on streaming. That they found
like mini rooms as well. I remember
mini rooms. That's
discussion right now too as well.
Yes, that's one of the loopholes that the studios and companies have found to pay writers less and diminish the writers' presence. And it's becoming it's writing is shifting away from being a career to a gig, and writers there are like when people look at TV writers and movie writers, they think, oh, they're all rich. Yes, there is a small percentage of and this is a very small percentage of the Writers Guild has 13,000 members. But a very small percentage of that is very, very wealthy. But most writers are, have middle class, what would be considered a middle class living. And that has been eroded slowly and slowly to the point where you don't have, like we've lost all of those protections. We're not working regularly through the year. Residuals on streaming shows are not the same as what they were, so they're not sustaining us in between jobs. Jobs are shorter,
and there's less episodes as well nowadays too, which get you even less residuals on top of that, I would assume.
Exactly. Yes. And most writers are supplementing their incomes through other jobs. They're being forced to take other jobs. They're either scrambling to do multiple jobs at the same time and working themselves to the bone, or they are working secondary jobs. Some are teaching, some are driving Ubers, some are it's finding creative ways to just keep themselves afloat. And it's happening. It's becoming more and more common. And if we don't do something about it now, we won't be able to reverse this trend. And I want to be very clear about myself. I have been doing well. And I think that I am the exception that proves the rule. I'm on a streaming show. The residuals on my show are not the same as they are on broadcast. But on Strange New Worlds, I'm working more than 20 weeks a year. I'm generally contracted just for 20-ish weeks, sometimes a little bit longer than that. But it takes longer. And our showrunners will, fight to keep us on longer. So I work a lot longer. We're also kept on through production, which happens after the writer's room wraps. And that's also something that our showrunners have to negotiate, and they do, and they fight for it. And so I'm doing fairly well working on this show, but that is so rare. When I tell people about my situation, people say, how do I get on that show? Because it almost doesn't happen anymore. On streaming shows, it's extremely rare. And it usually only happens on broadcast shows that tend to be 22 episode orders that don't tend to be big effects shows like Strange New Worlds. But those shows are incredibly rare now. Most, the broadcast model has shrunk, and almost all content now is on streaming. So I'm like the exception that proves the rule. I am fighting yes, I'm fighting for whatever if one day the Strange New Worlds will end and I'll go on to another show.
Hopefully not for many years, but yes.
Hopefully not for many years. I don't know if the next show I go on to will be the same. And so I'm fighting for that. I'm fighting for the membership at large that is not in my situation and is not enjoying what I'm enjoying. And I'm saying this because I want to be very upfront, about how that I am able to enjoy middle class living. There are things that we need to improve in the contract that we even writers on streaming shows need help with. But it's important for everybody to know, and I will be fair to Paramount that they that our showrunners had to fight to keep us on during production and to keep us on for multiple weeks beyond what we're initially contracted for, and they agreed to it. So that it's always a negotiation, but they ultimately did agree to it. There's a lot of networks that streaming networks. No, not at all. So that's and so I'm fighting for the membership that is hurting really badly, and I'm also fighting for future writers, future writers, like the term that they have chosen for themselves is pre-WGA, and so I'm fighting for those writers that work hard and will eventually become WGA writers, so that when they do come into the WGA, they have a career and not a gig that, or a hobby.
That's the importance of, with solidarity and unions as well. Like, you multiple different things that you sort of mentioned there that just stuck out to me is just saying, like, hey, you're in a place of privilege in terms of, at least in terms of relationship to other writers right now, but it's like everyone's standing together and saying, no, not just because I got mine, screw everyone else. It's everyone, working together and standing together to do that. And then also too, like, people, working together for those who come next as well. Like, I remember when I was a kid watching the writers' strike back in, like, the mid 2000s. I forget was it 2007 or 2008, somewhere in that range.
It was 2007 into 2008.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's how long it was going for. So yeah, I remember that time too, and how important that was for residuals that, like, are even now still, like, just the small amount that you're fighting for on top of. So, like, those fights all pile up on top of each other, which is why I think it's an important conversation to say that this isn't just for right now, but it's for the next generation. No Star Trek pun intended, but going forward. So yeah, that's really cool to, like, hear you sort of being self-aware and also thinking about that. And I think it's just an important thing to talk about, that, these fights are always ongoing and build upon each other. And I kind of wanted to step back a little bit too, and just kind of talk some specifics about the situation with you, because we kind of just spoke generally. Let's start with the one that I think like the buzzworthy headline one, but there's actually probably even more demonstrable ones, but AI is probably the big buzzworthy one that everyone's sort of talking about when it comes to writing. And so I want to toss it to you, sort of talk about where you see writers' views on AI as it's sort of coming into to replace a lot of workers, as it's been doing in a lot of different areas, but specifically how it impacts creativity in an important way.
Well, it's
creative fields, I should say, is what I meant to say.
AI is posing an existential threat to writing as a career, as it is to many other crafts and jobs. So it's funny when the WGA started negotiating with the AMPTP, AI was part of the negotiation. I'll be frank, it wasn't the top priority yet. Like, there were board members that were sounding the AI alarm. But once the negotiation started, they started negotiating in March. I think it was March. Right around the time.
ChatGPT, if I can get my acronyms out. Anyways.
Yes, you said what I was going to say. That ChatGPT, while we were negotiating, ChatGPT was released, and that really solidified for all of us how prescient this threat. It's not a faraway threat. It's here now. Prior to that, I thought AI. Well, I thought, okay, AI is really a threat to artists and designers. But I didn't think it was quite here yet. And then ChatGPT came out, and I said, "Oh shit!" And a lot of other people. There was a collective "oh shit." Like, I hope I'm allowed to say that. I don't know if I am.
I don't say whatever the fuck you want. The weird YouTube rules are you can say whatever you want, just not in the first 10 seconds, because then after the first 10 seconds, I guess we can ruin people's innocence. I don't know why. But anyways, so yeah, feel free to say what you want.
Well, that was a real warning for all of us. And then it suddenly became a top priority, and the AMPTP would not engage us at all on that proposal. The proposal so here's the danger. You can use ChatGPT through writing prompts to write a script, to write you can also use it to write an outline. You can use it to write a treatment. You can use it to come up with characters. I'm not saying this is going to be good, but you can. You can use it for all of these things. And what the WGA has a committee, has an AI committee that was studying this, and they realized very quickly, oh, the studios can create a script through AI and then give it to a writer, and it's going to be shitty, and then give it to a writer and say, hey, or make this
Brush
less
it up.
shitty.
Mm-hmm.
But because you didn't generate it, you're going to get paid nothing, or
You'll get paid whatever it is to edit it, but you won't get any residuals. You won't get any of that ongoing thing.
exactly.
And what's interesting to me too about the conversation with AI specifically relates to like WGA is they kind of comes in two different forms that are interesting. One is the sort of threat that I think a lot of folks who are facing threat from AI are facing, which is like it's putting them out of work that people are then giving to the AI of like, call centers, like tech support sort of things like that. They're just now being automated by AI and removing people from being able to get work. And that's, in our, again, capitalist dystopia where people are, where we don't have the funds or we don't have the, societal systems in place to be able to, help people and protect people and be able to, get secure living. Not being able to pay their bills is a huge deal. And that sort of comes with all of people under threat of AI right now. But the second one too, especially in creative fields, and I think it's an interesting one as well, is just like, it ruins the art as well, because there's like all AI can do is sort of regurgitate in like just shuffle around things that already exist instead of generating new ideas, which is what art and creativity is all about like creating things, like having conversations between people through emotion and through art and through stories. And AI can't really do that. So it's kind of a double existential threat, at least from my point of view. And I'm curious to see if you have any extra thoughts on that. But yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, it's plagiarism. It's scrubbing. Like AI generates material by scrubbing the internet for existing material, and then using that as a springboard to fulfill the prompt. And so it's still, it was doing that with in the 2022 leading up to this year with illustrators and designers, and now it's doing it with writers, and there's no soul to it. It's there's a lot of great AI signs on the line, like AI was doesn't have daddy issues. Like,
yeah. I mean, I see all the tech bros that are just like, look at this script that got created. Like, look at this, like extra, even with visual art where it's just like, look at it can create like more image to the Mona Lisa. And I'm like, this all looks horrible and it's terrible. Like, I don't understand why anyone thinks this is good. Yeah. It's like, it's semi-coherent and that's about the best I could say for it sometimes, but it's like, it's not actually speaking to anything. And I think that creates an existential threat for writers, and then also just an existential like threat to, if I might get all like high and mighty about it, like our collective societal soul. Like art is what speaks to us about like how we have conversations about what we're going through right now. And then if you just have that sort of constantly regurgitated back at you in more and more nonsense ways, means you're not going to have anything that, is speaking to the moment, like all good fiction should. So I think that's, I think, something that it's very important to talk about like the direct danger to people's livelihoods, but I also think it's a much larger conversation too about the dangers to just society where we won't be able to actually have conversations, and that sort of allows people to take advantage of that, which I think is really, really dangerous. So
yeah, it's horribly dangerous. I'm going to bring up a review of our show of Strange New Worlds that came out in Esquire just yesterday. That brought up AI specifically. And I was very happy that this was a glowing review of our show. And then the reviewer decided to talk about AI and talked about like how she brought up how our show, it has great writing. So thank you for saying that. I'm very proud that she said
which I'll reiterate as well. I've seen the first 6 episodes of the season. We're not going to talk about it because I don't want to promote Paramount stuff while we're talking about WGA Strike. But I will say, just to speak to you, everyone on the show has done excellent work. I love the first 6 episodes. Anyways, back to
Thank you. Well,
more
thank you. So she pointed out, that the strength of our show lies in the writing and the humanity of our writing. And to prove the point, she generated a story through a Strange New World story through Chat GPT.
Oh God.
And she laid it out in the review, and it was this bland, if I had read that as a spec script from somebody applying for our show, I would have said,
nope.
No originality, nothing. It's totally standard, had no humanity to it. It felt like somebody pretending to, know about our show. So I mean, and I thought that was a great case in point for the dangers of AI to writing, and I'm sure that could apply to any TV show. You could use that as a prompt and get a similar hack script.
Yep.
And by the way, when you get hack scripts like that, you have to rewrite them. You're it's like you're doing it from scratch. It is you're doing yes, there are words on the page, so I guess there's but they're not worth much.
Sorry.
And we don't even. Sorry, the point I wanted to make is we don't even want to get to that point. I should say that just to make it simple for your audience, the WGA's stance on AI is very simple. Studios and companies that are signatory to the WGA can only have scripts generated by human beings. That's our stance. All of their scripts need to be, if they want to be WGA signatory, their scripts need to be generated by human beings. Their response to that was they do not want to rule out a technology which they may use in the future. Chilling that they said that was in their response. And they offered us a conference to meaningfully talk about technology once a year. That was their response. It did not engage our proposal at all.
And I'm sure that the meaningful talk will certainly always be listened to and result in demonstrable change. I'm sure. Yeah. I can't sense the sarcasm. It's very blatant what the hope is there with that sort of thing. It's like, oh yeah, sure, it'll be fine. We'll take you seriously, and then they just are going to go and do whatever's going to make them the most money, which is not paying people. And something else too that this will sort of like segue into like other things beyond AI too that you touched upon that I was thinking about with all of this too is that you mentioned that one of the possibilities is like, oh, they generate a script or a treatment or whatever, and they pass it off to a writer to polish it up. And one of the things that I think that could be even more dangerous beyond just, less people getting paid and the art not being good is like you have then a writer who, if they care about their craft, which, writers do, artists do, they will actually try to work to make whatever turd the AI spits out something worthwhile and meaningful, but then get paid less for that work. And it goes and speaks to how studios constantly like take advantage of writers and artists who actually care about what they want to do and sort of take advantage of that, where it sort of says like with the mini rooms or other like problems that the studios are sort of hoisting upon writers, where it's saying it's like, well, you want to work all this extra time to make sure it's good, right? I mean, I know we're not going to pay you the fair amount, but you want it to be good. You don't want to put out a crap script, so you work extra hours without the pay or the the support that you need. And it's again sort of taking advantage of how writers actually care to do their work. So, and there's not really a question. I was just sort of passing it off if there was like any addition or like anything that I'm like missing in that conversation, that the extra nuance that you think I'm missing out there.
No, I mean, well, you're right. Like we don't want to turn stuff in that's bad. I don't know any writer who would want to do that.
Yeah. But it's just taking advantage of stuff with that. And I guess to keep going with the conversation, before we go and talk about like what's going on with the strike right now that we're 46 days into it. Um,
46 days. We just
yep.
ended week 7.
I was gonna say hell yeah to the people standing strong. Less hell yeah to the amount of time that the strike has gone on. But I will say, is there anything else that's sort of like in the demands surrounding what WJ is asking for that you want to sort of that you think is important to talk about and point out before we move on to like what's going on with the strike?
The big things in television are eliminating mini rooms, and mini rooms, as I simply put, they're a loophole in which you can pay writers scale before the show is greenlit, and that they most likely will not wind up going on to write on and don't get credit for it. And sometimes they're held from other jobs because of the commitment that the mini room hold puts on them. So those are very damaging, and they're damaging to the showrunners because then you're supposed to generate a lot of scripts in a short period of time to help the showrunners, but they're done so quickly that then the showrunner, with not getting paid because they had a mini room, has to rewrite everything, and they're getting stretched thin. So mini rooms are bad for everybody. So we're trying to eliminate that. We want to, in television, we want to keep, we want to create minimum size staff rooms. And that sounds like, controversial, like, oh, how can you dictate to a showrunner a minimum size staff room? The thing that people need to understand is that the studios and the companies want to eliminate writers' rooms. So they would be happy. And this happens in animation. In animation, often there's no writer's room. There's a showrunner, there's a story editor, and then every script is freelanced out. And it's really, really hard and I'm talking specifically about Animation Guild covered shows. It's really, really hard to string together a living. Well, the studios and companies want to do that for live action. They would be just as happy to eliminate a writer's room. And have all scripts be freelanced or all scripts written by one showrunner. And that's something we're trying to stop. So we're one of our asks is a minimum room size to protect the writers' room. So there will be writers' rooms in the future. We are because of the way streaming shows are made now. Very often there's a writer's room and then production happens afterwards. So writers do not get to go to set. And that means that you don't learn how to produce your episodes. That stops you from having career mobility. That stops you from being, so then what happens is when writers do get shows made, sometimes they've never been to set themselves, and they don't know how to make shows. So it's really holding back. It's eliminating the potential of mentorship, and it's stopping any kind of career mobility for writers. So we're also fighting to make sure that writers are held on for a minimum period of time that would keep them on through production. Like I said, I get to stay on through, like in Strange New Worlds, the writers are on set. We produce our episodes. We are there, and our showrunners had to fight to get that to make that happen. And Paramount would have been fine if that didn't happen.
Never happened. Yeah,
they did agree to it. So again, being fair to Paramount, they did agree to it. Netflix's, other, Amazon's, like the other shows, they're the other streamers. They're the ones who are really, creating this environment. So that's the other fight. I don't want to leave screenwriters out of this. We are also fighting very hard for screenwriters. Screenwriters are hurting. They are on deals that have them working for 12, 16 months before they even get paid. Once they've sold a script, it's unsustainable. So we're fighting for weekly pay for screenwriters, and to stop the endless rewrites that screenwriters have to do. The studio stance is that producer rewrite. So often, like when a screenwriter has a treatment that gets turned into a script, they'll work with the producer. They get notes, and they have to do all these free rewrites from the producer before they turn it into the studio when they get paid. And this can go on for months and months and months and months and months. And so we want to eliminate free work. Like once the deal is made, they get weekly pay so they can sustain themselves. The stance from the studios and the companies is there is no such thing as free work. That's just collaborating with producers.
Mm-hmm.
That's just fucking
Okay.
bullshit.
Yeah, it is. Oh my God. Sorry. We've been focusing so much on like television writers and a lot of the conversations that I've been reading and paying attention to. That's like, I didn't even realize I knew screenwriters also had shit that they were dealing with, but I didn't even realize it was that long before they even got paid, which is ridiculous. Like, I don't even know how anyone's like supposed to like survive on that. I'm assuming just spinning a bunch of plates, as you said before, and working a bunch of different jobs at the same time, which is not fun. It's great.
I'm going to mention my friends Chris Amick and Ben Meckler, who were writers on Kipo. They sold a movie a couple years ago, and they were both tweeting about this just last week. It took 5 months just to get, once they sold the movie, 5 months just to get the first email confirming that they that an offer was coming. 5 months. Jesus. For the first email.
And then during those 5 months, you still have to pay your bills, which is great. Yep. Fun times. Okay. Yeah. I did not have any idea about that one. That's fun. Fun. And one thing I want to like point out too, just to like continue this conversation with the audience listening in mind too, is like, the two things that I want to point out to people listening is, number one, all of these fights that we're discussing here too are fights that are going on in many different other spaces, which is why it's important to be, we're paying attention to the WGA as we should, because there's a big spotlight, but it's also like, these are fights that all different groups are going to have to fight in different ways, shape, or forms. Like, I'm sure many schools are going to be like, let's farm out teaching to AI. Let's make gig teachers. Like, we already sort of have those sort of things. So these are fights there. And then also too, to point out to audiences about like what this means for them in terms of this fight too, beyond just like showing solidarity with people fighting for things that we are also gonna have to fight for on a societal scale, is also like, all of these things also make the art worse, because everyone's stressed out and not able to work, not able to focus on like making good work, means that like the work suffers. And it's like, you can clearly see when shows like, not to at your show on the back, but since you're here, like Strange New Worlds, you can tell that there are people behind the scenes being able to work on that show, because you can see the attention and the love and care put into it. Not to say that there's not in other shows, but that I assume those other shows would be 10 times better if there were people able to be there throughout that whole process and actually be able to support themselves doing that. And the fact that they are already still excellent on top of that is a testament to people just working really hard, but they shouldn't have to do that. So I just, toss it to the audience listening, just to like point those things out of like, this is a thing that we should be showing solidarity for, just on a worker level. And then also just as someone who enjoys art, I want people to be able to do it sustainably and be able to like focus on making good things. So, yeah. And I guess that sort of like leads me into, the even worse situation, was the fact that we've been doing this strike. You've been doing the strike for 46 weeks. So I wanted to ask you specifically about like what it's been like to have the strike go on for this long. Like what it's been like on the strike lines and what you've sort of seen, as well as what it's like to, have to go this long and many other people, especially who are, not as well off, not able to pay their bills during all of this.
It was 46 days, not 46 weeks.
What did I say? I'm sorry. Welcome. See.
Maybe we'll be at 46 weeks eventually. I hope not that long. It feels like 46 weeks. Mm-hmm. We're just like, so we just wrapped up week 7. And yes, I am counting the days. I'm actually, every day I'm tweeting each day, like some picture, so today we had, the reason why my sign back there says like Sands from through a fair contract was we had at TV City, we had soap. Today was supposed to be the day of the daytime Emmys, and they were postponed because they knew we would pick it, and writers wouldn't work. Yeah. Also writers wouldn't write the copy for it because that would be scabbing, so they postponed it. So all soap opera writers and actors even came out to walk the picket line. So I made a soap opera themed picket sign for the day. But it was actually, that was really meaningful, like having all of these soap writers and soap actors come out. It shows a lot of the solidarity that we have if you want a slice of what it's like, even at week 7, day 46, we had at TV City. There are 2 soap operas being made: Young and the Restless and Bold and the Beautiful. They're still being made, and we can't like shut them down because we can shut shows down where Teamsters are in trucks bringing in sets, bringing in trailers. For soap operas, there's no, the sets are on the stage already. There's already,
been working on like lighting setups for years, the same lighting setups for years, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's all there. So we're not stopping any trucks from going through. And SAG-AFTRA, the actors, they have to, like, if you're contracted, like, you should not hold this against actors for crossing picket lines, because they contractually like in their contract they have to cross the picket line. If they're not scheduled to work that day, they can come out and picket, and they can hold picket signs. And the actors on the shows that were filming at TV City, when they weren't scheduled to be on stage today, they came out and walked the picket line with us, and that was very meaningful. Oh, yeah. We had some of the stars of Young and the Restless walking with us today, and because they didn't get to go, and all these soap writers, and because they didn't get to go to the daytime Emmys, I brought a big red towel, and I unrolled a red towel for them so they could walk the red towel.
That's wonderful. That's adorable.
So, we're doing things like this, every day, at every different site where there are pickets. We have regular pickets going at 10 different studios throughout Los Angeles and in the Valley. Warner Brothers, NBC Universal, CBS Radford, Amazon, Sony, Fox, CBS Television City,
Disney as well.
Right? Disney, and I don't know if I've named them all, but it's
a whole
10.
Lot. Yeah.
It's a lot, and we have regular pickets, writers every day. Writers, members, WGA members are showing up on the picket lines, and we've essentially at this point shut down all production in Los Angeles. There's almost nothing going on. Like the shows like that are filming, that are still filming at CBS TV City. Those are like the exception. Almost all production has been shut down. But we're and we're going to keep these picket lines going to keep the pressure up. It's so every day, every single lot has a lot coordinator. I'm also, not only am I strike captain, I'm a lot coordinator. I'm the lot coordinator for Television City. So I handle the mornings, and then there's an afternoon lot coordinator. So I organize everybody to make sure, we have members, in a safe manner, creating a picket line in front of both entrances of the studio. I talk to members. I talk to people who come that aren't members, that come to walk with us. We have pre-WGA writers. We have members from other unions coming. Like I said, SAG-AFTRA has been a big presence on the lines. We've got a lot of IATSE members walking the lines with us. We have members from other unions in the city that aren't related to entertainment. We have just yesterday. There were all these the janitors union was endured some pretty harsh layoffs from the studios because of the strike. By the way, the CEOs are still paying themselves exactly what they're they're not cutting their own salary, but they're cutting the janitors from the studio. So yesterday the janitors came out and they did a big march. I think it was from Sony to Fox, and that was incredibly touching and moving to have this kinship with other labor. Labor is standing up for labor. So that's what's happening on the picket lines. And we're writers are meeting other writers. I'm seeing people that I haven't seen in a long time that I've worked with in past shows. I'm meeting people I never thought I would meet on the picket line, and that's really cool. I get to sometimes meet my heroes. Cinco Paul, who is the creator of Schmigadoon. He's been on the picket line. I love that show.
I don't even know what that is. I have never heard of that. What is Schmigadoon? That's what I was like. That's a title.
It's a delight. It's a musical.
Oh, okay.
It's a musical about this magical place called Schmigadoon, where everything is a musical. And a married couple who are having trouble in their marriage get lost. Like, they go on a couples retreat to try to like restart their marriage, and then they accidentally happen upon Schmigadoon. And they're like, what the hell is happening? This is, everybody's singing here, and they're trapped and they can't get out of it.
Oh God. So it was their personal hell, a sort of thing.
It's great. It was with Cecily Strong and Keegan Michael Key, and anyway,
okay. That sounds wonderful. Okay.
But the creator of that show, which like I said, I'm a big fan of. Got to meet him and talk to him a bit. I mean, every day I'm meeting new people on the line. And so that's a general sense of what it's like. And we've had a lot of support from people. I'll say this. One other thing. So yesterday was the and I'm saying this, I'm couching this, I'm not promoting our show, I'm couching this in context for what happened. Yesterday was the season 2 premiere of Strange New Worlds, and some Star Trek fans. We have a Star Trek fan who lives in Oregon, who organized an army of Los Angeles fans. And she contacted me. She DM'd me. She said, we want to send you some food and treats to the picket line on the day of the premiere. Which I thought I was very touched by. And so I contacted the writing staff. I said, come to TV City this day. And we all came. As many of the writing staff that could come, that could make it that day, that weren't picketing elsewhere, had other commitments that day, came. And we got this wonderful food delivery from Star Trek fans on the day of our premiere. And there was no official season 2 premiere for us, because that would be that would be set up by a company, and we wouldn't be, we're not participating in that right now. So and so things like that are happening at every lot. We're doing so. Not only are we keeping up a show of force, but we are, we're feeling the support and solidarity from other unions, from the community at large, and we're doing things to keep our spirits up every day, so that we stay out there, continue to stay out there every day for as long as it takes.
Yeah. And also something important to note too, because you touched upon it within all of that too, with the janitors union and everything too. It's like, it's not the writers who are doing this. It is the CEOs and the companies that are running it that are the ones perpetuating this. They could end it at any point. So yeah, to be very, very clear, just because I've heard that also too. It's like, oh, why are you continuing? It's like, no, it's the companies and CEOs who are doing this. It's not you. So
that is a very good point. They could end this today. And I will say one other thing in support of that. The WGA was very transparent and released after the negotiations broke down, they released all of our key proposals, and they released every single one of the AMPTP's responses. And for 9 of our key proposals that are cornerstones to what we're asking for, in all of the time that we were negotiated, they never once countered on those proposals.
Fun.
How do you negotiate? That's not that's not bargaining in good faith.
Yeah, no, that's just saying do what we want or else. And that's that's not actually listening. Yeah.
They made this happen. And they wanted the strike to happen, and I would rather be working. I would rather be working on season 3 of Strange New Worlds. I don't want to be out walking every day. And if you're mad that your television shows are going to start to suck and also get delayed, yes, be mad. Be mad at the companies. Be very mad at the companies. Call the companies and tell them, go back to the table.
Yeah. No, I'd much rather be talking to you about Star Trek right now, which would be 10 times more fun. But yeah. So, well, on that note, I guess, like, you're talking about like things that people have done. So to throw to a call to action to my audience, anyone listening here, what do you think is the things that, people in my audience can do to support all of you out there on the picket line right now?
On social media, like reacting to us on social media, that's always a great shot in the arm. It always it like makes us feel terrific.
Yeah.
That's just a reminder, that you're out there. I mean, I'm so touched that the fans, have been sending things, and I'm not saying that you should be doing that, because that's not in everybody's financial means. And I'm very touched that this fan, and she's also a playwright and writer herself, in Oregon, organized fans who did have the means, like, and even more than like the fact that food came, like, and it was actual sustenance, but it was also the support, like that, like, like knowing that you're out there and supporting us is very, like, I can't tell you how much, like, every time like somebody sends like a box of donuts, or a coffee carafe, or anything, like, immediately it's this like jolt of like, oh, like this, like somebody's thinking about us and somebody took the time to to care for us. Like that means a lot. That could be helpful. I would also say contact the studios and companies. Contact the studios and companies of your favorite shows and tell them to go back to the table and bargain with the WGA in good faith.
Oh yeah.
Tell them.
Yeah. And I will, listeners, I will put some contact information down in the description below, so you can do that right from after this. Is there anything else that we didn't touch upon that you think will be is a good conversation that I missed, or that we should talk about before sort of wrapping out?
Well, I guess we should talk about the other unions,
Yes,
to give context.
Well. Yeah.
SAG and the DGA. The DGA struck a deal, and
which
that's a whole podcast right there.
Yes. Was not great, but it is I haven't looked, but I know a lot of people were voting no. I don't know if that's votes is done yet.
I believe it goes until the 26th. And it's going to pass. It's like the membership is going to accept it. I hope that the DGA is transparent and releases their ratification data, so we know that, like, how what percentage of the membership ratified it. I'll say this, like, we first of all, we can win this movement without the DGA walking out also. Yeah. So we don't need them. And if this deal is truly the best deal that they could have, then great. In my opinion, it's not. In my opinion, they left a lot on the table, and they had a real, like, chance to get more for their membership. I don't like it's the DGA is saying it's a historic deal. In my personal opinion, I do not think it's a historic deal.
I'm with you on that, to be fair. Yeah.
Without getting into the details, it does feel to me like the DGA took some things that they wanted, that from. There's a couple of gains in the deal that takes a little bit of power away from TV showrunners, and gives it more to episodic directors. And I understand that, like, sometimes like this is getting to a whole other thing, but TV directors often feel like they don't have as much autonomy and say as they would like on TV sets. And they made some gains there that gives them a little bit more power. I don't think it's really going to change the dynamic and make TV a director's medium as opposed to a writer showrunner's medium. But they did gain a little, and to that I would say, why didn't they, if they really wanted those things, couldn't they have come to the WGA and said, we really want these things, like work with us to make sure we get them in our contract, and we'll stick with you and get the most incredible deal imaginable for both unions. instead of going to management. It goes to me, it's like, it's about labor. This is a labor action, and labor should stick with labor. And I'm disappointed that, and it reads to me, and I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but it reads to me that the deal that the DGA took, like they were kind of, they sided with management over labor, and I'm disappointed in that.
Well, that sucks. Fun times. But at least on the bright side, there is also SAG, which is also.
I'm sorry. One quick addendum to that.
Please.
I love collaborating with directors, and I do think that I'm glad that TV directors are going to have more collaboration and more say. And I don't want to say, like, I am not talking about, when I'm talking about the DGA, I'm not talking about the members. I'm a little disappointed in the DGA leadership, but I love the members, and I so value the collaborations I've had with every director I've worked with, and I can't wait to get back to working with them. I'm not trying to start a war with the DGA.
No, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I get to give you that grace in that moment there too. It's just like it's also like and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from what it sounds like to me is it's not you saying that you aren't happy for the things that they have gotten through this deal. You're just not exactly happy with the way they went about it, instead of exactly you said, like, labor siding with labor, and having that solidarity across for lack of a better words, like class lines. They went to the people in charge and sort of like kind of, again, the leadership, not the actual members themselves, went around and sort of said, well, we'll just take this moment that we can sort of get this deal done now, instead of siding with people who are also sort of fighting alongside for the same issues.
Exactly.
Exactly. So yeah, that I think that was very clear in the way that you said it, but yeah, just to be very explicit about it. The other thing too, just again, to go to positive thing, like SAG has also authorized a strike, and they are potentially going to go on strike on June 30th. I think it's technically July 1st, end of the month, essentially. If they'd also don't get a deal, which is, I'm assuming, very similar, stakes there in terms of a lot of the discussions going on. I'm sure there's specific nuances that I go and talk with some of the SAG actors about, and probably will at some point. But how does that sort of just to kind of briefly touch upon it, is like, what does that mean to you as a member of the WGA, seeing SAG also sort of standing alongside you at this moment?
It's not only have they shown an incredible amount of solidarity to us. I am proud of their union for holding a strike authorization vote before their negotiations, and sticking up for their members. They by holding that vote before they even began negotiating, and it was a strong vote too. Not only did they, so to your audience, that maybe. So the amount, so they had 49% participation in the vote. Participation, and that is up from normally their votes, and they have 160,000 members too. So like they're dealing with a lot more members. So and normally their votes are around 20%, I believe, participation. So that's huge, more than double the amount of members voted. And of the people that voted, 98% voted to authorize a strike. I'm so proud of the membership for standing up for their rights, and I'm so proud of the leadership for trusting in their membership to go to their membership and say, "Hey, we help us get the best deal for you," because now they have more leverage than they could possibly have. And I am very excited about that. And listen, that one of two things could happen. I hope they use that leverage to get either use it to, like, say, we're asking for the world, we're asking for everything that we need. And actors, by the way, are also hurting just as badly as writers right now. That's a whole nother podcast discussion, but they are. So they should be asking for everything. And if the studios treat them the way they treated us, They should walk out and we band together and everything will shut down immediately.
Then you
and
can definitely not do anything without
Yeah.
with actors and writers. Yeah.
the power of labor will be undeniable at that point. And it's possible. Listen, I'm going to entertain the possible side. That it's possible that the AMPTP will be so scared that they will, give SAG everything that they want. And if it's big, that would set a pattern that might benefit us for some of the things that we're asking for, and that might knock some of our proposals off, and then we'll go back and fight the last stuff on our own if they go for everything that they want. And I genuinely hope that their leadership is like saying, no bullshit. You're not giving us any crumbs. Like we're getting the good stuff now, because they couldn't be in a better position.
I mean, yeah, like having 98% of the people voting that are actively engaged saying like, hey, we want to do a strike. We're willing to do a strike. Well, want is the wrong word. We're willing to do this. Willing to do a strike. It literally says things like, we're happy to, again, I'm using the wrong language. We're like, we're ready to do this. And we have the entire guild behind us, or at least 98% of the people that are actively engaged, willing to do it. So yeah, no, that's a strong position to be in, especially standing in solidarity alongside everything that you all are doing with the WGA. Yeah. Is there anything else too? I just want to make sure there wasn't anything else missed in any of that. So
just that this is a bigger issue than even entertainment. This is about labor in our country. This is about labor standing up for what labor is worth. And there's a move. It's been happening in America, across America, these last couple of years. Starbucks workers are unionizing. Amazon workers are trying to unionize. It's happening everywhere. We're part of that movement, and we have a bigger platform because we make TV shows that everybody watches. So everybody's eyes are on us right now, and also SAG too. I mean, they're the actors. And if we win, that will benefit labor across the country. And so to me, it's not just about us. This is something bigger than entertainment. It's about it's about valuing humans over capital. And that's why this fight is so important. It's not just an existential fight for the profession of writers. It's to me, it's a fight for humanity. Maybe that sounds like hyperbole, but I really don't think it is. I think it's a fight for valuing humans.
You're allowed to be slightly poetic and hyperbolic. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, that's part of what I was getting at earlier when I mentioned like this is an ongoing fight that a lot of us are going through. As for me, as someone who worked at Starbucks, the Starbucks that I worked at tried to unionize and they closed it down. So it's like shows the importance of solidarity, needing to actually stand alongside each other, not just within a certain space, whether it be Starbucks or wherever, but alongside everyone, working class folks who are just trying to make a living, trying to get stuff done, and trying to like be proud of the things that they make. The people at the top just want to see the number go up and see the money rise, but like, you all care about the things that you are making and the things that you're doing. And that clearly shows in the work that we see of yours. And it clearly shows in the fact that you are willing to stand up for your rights as workers. So yeah, no, this is why this is an important conversation, not just to say like, hey, the shows that you like are going away. As a Trekkie, I want to see, you working on more Star Trek right now. And that's an important thing too. But also, it is a discussion that goes across just the entire working class and people who are, laboring and doing work. So yes, I 100% agree. So yeah. Well, Bill, thank you so much for all of your work, both as a WGA captain and strike leader and as just a writer generally. Thank you for talking with me, and thank you for everything that you're doing. It's very much appreciated, and adore you very much. So thank you for taking the time, because I know you've been super busy. So
thank you, Jessie. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for taking the time to talk about this about our labor action.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, to wrap out, everybody, please go follow. I will put Bill's information down in the link below, so you can go follow him and shout him out and other WGA writers as well on there. So I highly recommend you go and check his stuff out. Also, I will put down links for you to contact some studios in the description as well. So if you have time, please do that as well. And then also, I will also put probably a link to, if you wish to donate. I know there's some donation links to writers who need some help with money, food, things like that on the picket line, things like that. So I'll put that in the link if you have the means to do so. No pressure, but obviously if you have the means, show some support. Beyond all of that, thank you, everybody. And thank you again, Bill, for being here. And I send you all love.
Thank you. Glad. Oops, I did my.
do this one.
There we go. It's weird. Like it's when I'm looking, I could do it on my own, but like not. There we go. There we go.
No, I've gotten practiced at it where it's like I got it so I can angle at the camera because I do it all the time now. Welcome to being a YouTube person. Yeah, that's the fun bit.
when the camera reverses, I can't. I get all turned around.
No, it's always weird. I got like a second eye at this point. Like my cat will sometimes walk in and I'll see him on the camera like, oh, there he is. Yeah. No, it's a skill. It's very much a skill. All right, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you later.
Bye.